Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Wrap, brought to you by Michigan Medicine Headlines. I'm Dan Ellman with the Department of Communication.
And I'm Lilia Simic, also with the Department of Communication. Today's episode will hit all the right notes as we discuss the Bedside Music Program and how it helps patients at Michigan Medicine.
Now, before we get into that conversation, be sure you go get caught up on any episode of The Wrap you may have missed. You can find the shows on your favorite podcast hosting platform, on the Headlines homepage, or on the Michigan Medicine YouTube channel.
With that, let's bring in Sam Vandiver and Desmond Bratton. First, can you two introduce yourselves and explain your roles and how long you've been with the organization?
Sure, I'll go first. My name's Sam Vandiver. I'm the Bedside Music Coordinator. I first started here in 2018 as just a musician, and then in 2020 was moved up to be the coordinator during COVID. And so I've been doing that for almost 5 years now.
My name is Desmond Bratton, and I started here at the end of a graduate program at University of Michigan. In the middle of it in 2023, I believe. So coming up on almost 3 years now.
Outstanding. All right. Well, we both know that you're musicians. So can you tell us a little bit more about what instruments you play and how long you've been playing them?
Sure. Here I play just acoustic guitar, but I started out as a drummer, and I was a drummer for 2 decades. But we definitely don't take a drum set up to the patient room, so we keep it simple here. I play acoustic guitar,
and I play a upright bass violin. I call it bass violin because often when I'm walking around in the hallways with it, people assume it's a cello. Because they see somebody with a bow and that shape, and their first thought isn't upright bass. So I just, and if I say bass, they automatically think bass guitar. So I just bass violin.
What's the difference between that and a cello?
Well, it sounds an octave or 8 notes below the lowest note on the cello, so it's in the lower range of the piano.
I did not know that, so thank you for explaining. In your experience, either of you can answer, how can music help with healing for patients, or how can it support families during their hospital times?
It's a tough one to answer because there's so many different responses. I would say first and foremost, like one of the initial reactions is a lowering of the sense of stress and anxiety. There's something about hospitals that produces that in people, understandably, because loved ones and patients themselves are going through a very challenging time. And so I think it gives them a sense of peace and comfort and, takes away any worry they might be having. That's kind of a first base response. But often you'll see, if you have a monitor in the room, you'll see the heart rate go down, the blood pressure go down, which is amazing to see actual physical responses to the music. And the family, I mean, it's big for them too, because, they're the ones there supporting the patient. And often they're the liaison. If a patient is unresponsive, they're the ones who tell us the patient's favorite taste in music, and it gives them a sense of comfort and belonging as well. If we can speak to someone musically, it's just really profound. I mean, Desmond can probably go on. We could speak all day about this, really.
Yeah, I don't know. A weird anecdote just came to mind. I spoke to a friend this morning who I was asking him how late should I play music? And he said, well, you might be able to play late. It's Ypsilanti, so, there's a lot of parties going on. It might not be an issue. But then he said, well, what I did when I first moved here was I brought all my neighbors a pie. And then they were so thrown off by such an old school gesture and antiquated gesture that they were just open to, do what you want. And I kind of think of the bass, it just popped into my mind, kind of like that, because it's this antiquated instrument from the 17th century. And it's in a place where it would not normally be found. So just the cheekiness of walking around the hallways of it and just taking people back. I don't know, there's something about it that takes people to a different wave just when they see it. It just slows them down.
Yeah, to add to that, my in-laws are from Slovakia, and when they first heard about what I do, they pictured me as being like the clown in the hospital. And I think there is some truth to that, because people see an instrument, it just kind of like brightens, it surprises them. It's totally unexpected. When we're in the elevator with our instrument, staff will often ask us to play music, elevator music, and there's just like a lot of room to kind of like totally transform the hospital environment from something that's stressful into something that could even be fun.
Yeah,
So,
I want to build off that what you just said, Sam, about the hospital environment. But real quick, I will share, I had the fortune of being in the room with Sam and a few patients a few years ago, and to just see what they're going through and all of a sudden a smile just come to their face the second that Sam began playing. And then to see them singing along with you, right? They would ask you to play their favorite song and they would sing along. And it was like they didn't have a care in the world, right? And they could be going through some of the hardest days of their life. But for those minutes that they're with you and you're in the room, everything goes away. And that was really powerful to see. So, that's just from my perspective. Yeah.
yeah, I think, one reason that staff can consult us is for distraction. And that sounds like a minor thing, but I think it's very powerful in the hospital. If you can distract a patient from their sense of pain, or from their sense of worry. So yeah, I think that speaks to that, Daniel. It just takes the patient out of the hospital room for a minute,
Yeah.
So.
What would you say are some of the most unique challenges you face as musicians in a hospital setting, right? Like you said, this is a place where instruments usually aren't there, where music usually isn't there. And to some degree, there's reasons for that because there are a lot of sort of challenges that you have to face in order to bring music to the patients. Can you talk over that a little bit?
Yes, there's a lot of challenges. And I think it speaks to this notion that in our training, we like to view our music not as a performance, but as a service. And so the one distinction is when you're doing a performance, you're in control. You have a stage, you have an audience, you know what you're going to play. Whereas, when we're doing what we do, anything can happen. And you have to, be able to adapt in the moment. One example would be, we're playing outside an ICU room and a staff member needs to go in the room. And so we have to stop the song, move our guitar, just pivot. And if, for example, a staff member needs to go in the room and the patient needs privacy, we stop what we do, obviously, and we leave. So, it's like it's not a traditional way of providing music. There's constant interruptions, which we are happy to stop music and playing for. So it can be challenging just logistically and dynamically, getting in and out of the patient room, having a full session, things like that. But
And maybe too that people aren't up for it. I think one of the cool things that I learned, which kind of took the pressure off, because when you're coming from a music school environment, it's kind of centered on this is a short window where you can hone your development and make it somewhere someday. But I think once you get in here, it's like it's centered on really you get to put the ball in their hands. And it's one of the few moments, one of the reasons that I learned that it was actually empowering. I think I got deflated at the beginning when patients didn't want to hear music, but actually I found it empowering later because you're empowering them. A lot of patients don't have a lot of choice when they're in the space of the hospital. And I learned early on, give them the choice to tell you no or tell you yes, and relax your own response to it, because that helps you centralize their need.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, really, how many things do patients get to say no to in a hospital? And for every patient that says no, there's probably 100 others that would want it. So we've learned to take rejection very well. So yeah, it's a totally unique place to play music, and there are infinite challenges and surprises.
Could you walk us through a typical day or week for bedside musicians and how big the team is?
Sure. So right now we have 8 musicians. We have 3 harpists, 3 guitarists, a pianist, and Desmond, who plays bass violin. So a nice variety of instruments. A typical day, I won't show you the list because of HIPAA, but we create a patient list, which consists of referrals that staff give us and also patients who have previously benefited. And our list can be anywhere between 30 and 60 patients, which is quite a lot. And so each day I kind of divvy up who goes where. And I like to switch it up, that way units are getting different instruments and patients are getting different musicians. And so, on a given day, we typically visit University Hospital, Cardiovascular Center, and adult inpatients over in Mott. So that I think that's, nearly 900 patient beds. And so, I would say roughly between 60 and 70% of people want music. And so no matter where we're going, we're often like getting asked to, oh, can you play for, my wife, or the staff will pull us out and give referrals on the spot. So yeah, each musician visits about 1 or 2 floors per day and sees between maybe 5 and 15 patients, depending. And then I keep track of the stats and update the lists, and it's a well-oiled machine in here.
Yeah. Do the musicians play 5 days a week, or is it just like once a week you're in the hospital doing this? How, and that might be different for you, Sam, or, a different schedule than Desmond, et cetera. But how does it work sort of typically for your team?
It varies. So I wish we had 8 full-time musicians, but we just don't have funding for that. I'm the coordinator, so I'm here every day. But we have, multiple temps who are here 8 hours. They do 4-hour shifts, 2 days a week. And so it's kind of nicely divided. I would say between Monday and Friday, each day we have 3 to 4 musicians here. And each person kind of staggers, which is nice because we have, harps on one day and guitars on one day, and we kind of have that every day. So
yeah.
That's a good.
Well, I was going to say, Desmond, could you talk a little bit about like when you go into a patient room, how many, how long are you typically in there for? How many songs do you tend to play for them, et cetera?
I was going to say that I have kind of taken it upon myself. I think one of the reasons just naturally being because I play the largest and most kind of obtuse instrument, awkward to enter into the room. I mean, I do it, but often I'm like right outside the room, nearing the doorway, and then from there, I've kind of floated out. And I worked in a cancer center prior to this down in Florida. And there was a lot of glass and open space. So I spent a lot of time in lobbies and hallways. And just kind of my personality, the size of the instrument, I've kind of leaned into being the hallway guy, handing out cards and just do it canvassing almost, And so I just kind of centralize my intuition, walk around the hospital. And if I get a sense, oh, this space needs some love, this entry to parking lot 2 needs some love today, wherever people are coming in and I'm getting the sense, or I have some friends in security, they want to hear, hey, come by here today, So I'll go there. I usually start my day going to one of those spots for 20 minutes to an hour, it might be, for some of that work. And then once I get to a room, then from there, if I go to a room, it really depends on the needs of the patient. If they have an instrument with them, and sometimes they want to play, they want to, if you develop a relationship with them, and then we might have a duet or some sort of engaging thing. It's not the point, but sometimes it just happens. And sometimes people just want to use the music as a pretense to have a longer conversation, in which case I could be in there for upwards of an hour just conversing with the person, not even playing.
Yeah, that is a good point that, half of what we do is playing, but half of what we do is just being a presence in the room. And what often happens, you end up playing a song and people want to share their love of music with you, talk memories. And And so, one book we read in our training was called The Art of Being a Healing Presence, which I think speaks to that, because we're not just going in there and playing all the time. Like, we want to give space to them to be able to respond back and talk. So yeah, it can vary widely how much time, but
Is your work also sometimes geared toward staff members who might need, just to take a break and, because they're going through a lot of stress or trauma. Maybe they just lost a patient or something like that.
yeah.
Do you ever like take specific time for staff?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're here for anyone. And I would say when I got hired during COVID, we were almost exclusively prioritizing staff because burnout was so high. And also because of infection control, we, didn't want to go into the patient room. And so we prioritized playing in hallways, and ever since have made that, a thing where whichever floor we're on, we'll make a point to play in the hallway for staff, at the workstations or even at the clerk's desk. And like Desmond said, you'll just get pulled aside and asked for songs here and there.
And it's one of those times where the flexibility serves you, because you might just get denied from a patient. And then reflexively, somebody who's a staff member is sitting there and say, "Oh, that's okay, just play right here." And you might say, but when you pass them in the hallway, they might have just gotten done drawing blood, and so you think, "Oh, did I offend that? I'm sorry," because sometimes you might get sensitive around people doing something. You can see them stressing out, and then you're just this guy with the instrument, and so you feel, but then they turn around and say, "No, I want you, please be here while I do this, procedure." So it's always mind opening and always heart opening to just pivot to the staff and create that relationship.
Absolutely. I find I'll be in the room playing for a patient, and a doctor will come in and I'll ask, "Do you want me to leave?" And they almost always want me to stay, because it almost adds a buffer. Because sometimes I've been there when they're sharing difficult news, and I find it makes it easier for the staff member, and also easier for the patient. I've had doctors thank me afterwards for that. So I think we can support them even in the patient room too.
It's amazing. To kind of switch roles, last fall, you both, along with volunteers and guests, recorded an album in recognition of a new chapel at the organization. What inspired this project?
So initially, we kind of collectively wrote a song that was based on a patient's poem. And I reached out to our director saying, I think we should record this. And she kind of pivoted and was like, "Well, what if we make a whole album for the chapel?" And I was like, "Well, that sounds way cooler." And so, the chapel has been doing our renovations for a while, and we were told there was this speaker system, and they were asking, about music. And so we decided to book time in the Duderstadt studios. We had a whole week, and we mostly composed original music for the chapel. The CD has 17 tracks, but online we have, I think, 21 tracks. So there's a lot of music. It was really kind of a dream come true to just live in the studio for a week. And we had, I think, at least 13, 14 different musicians, all of our staff, but also I included volunteers. We had some music therapists. It was just this amazing collaborative project that involved spiritual care. It involved Duderstadt. It involved gifts of art. And it was really meaningful for all of us.
Absolutely.
I love that. Yeah. And I was going to ask about the recording process and like how it went and how long it took, but you sort of touched on that. So I actually want to pivot real quickly to something you just said. And I know that it's a challenge for you as bedside musicians because you a lot of times get mixed up and confused with music therapists. Mm. Can you talk a little bit about what the difference is between those two roles?
Yeah, I think this is a very common misconception. One thing that I always share when we're misidentified as music therapists is we are not board certified, and we are not therapists. So music therapists are trained therapists who use music as a modality in their therapy, where they have goals and outcomes with the patient that they're trying to work towards. And, they're not I would say they're actually kind of sometimes rarely playing live music in the room. They're more often using recorded music or making recordings. So it's much more involved, and it has much more clinical application. What we do, our training is solely as musicians. And we did all go through a certification program. So there was training, but it was solely on the music and how to use music to meet the patient condition. And so while there is some crossover and we do collaborate, we're very different in that we don't chart. We do get referrals, but it's primarily for comfort care type services. So
do we have goals?
No,
we don't have any goals.
We have no goals, no outcomes. We would love for them to be relaxed and comforted, but we're also very aware that music is not always welcome. So, I think we've become very sensitive to where music is working and where it's not.
I know you are now preparing for an upcoming live performance at the chapel. Kind of talk about that a little bit more. We're excited to hear.
Yeah, so this is essentially like the release party of this album I was talking about. Here's the album right here, just to give you a visual. It's called Spaces, and the idea is the music is evoking spaces like the chapel, very open, very calming. And so it's on Wednesday, November 12th, from 2 to 3:30. Which is just before the pavilion tour, by the way. If people want to stop by the chapel before that, it'll be an hour and a half, and it will be kind of a mixture of intentional listening to the music in the space, as well as live performances of some of the songs that were recorded. And so it's just, we're really excited to share this music. We have a CD and a way for people to listen to it and download it online. We've already had almost 2,000 plays. So, we're sharing it with patients so they can listen to our music when we're not there. And it's just a great resource that was made in-house, and it's available to anyone. And we're really excited to share it.
And it has crossover. Even the album art has crossover with our art department here, because on the way to the performance, on the right-hand side, when you're near the cafeteria, that painting is there. Liz Quizgars, she has a few of them around the hospital. So that's right. Yeah, it's a cool, really in-house, like you said, collaboration, crossover. Visual artists are involved, some of whom are singing in parts of it, and then the art part and the music.
I love that. All right, well, while we have the two of you, would you mind playing something for us?
Yes. Absolutely. All right, let's do it. All right, this is actually a B-side from our chapel music album. This is one I was going to record, but I didn't, so you're getting a behind-the-scenes look here. It's a song called India Hum.
Well, thank you so much, Sam and Desmond, for your insight into your unique and incredibly important line of work here at Michigan Medicine. If you want to learn more about the Bedside Music Program, go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
Okay, it's time for the lightning round when we ask one of our guests 4 quick-fire questions. Sam, you lost a game of musical chairs earlier, so you're in the hot seat today. Are you ready to go?
I'll do my best.
That's all right. Well, we've been talking all about music today, so let us know, who is your favorite musician?
My favorite musician, I would say, well, he goes by Bibio is his artist name. Stephen Wilkinson is his real name. He's an English producer, does a lot of kind of experimental folk music and also ambient music. And I love him. His name's Bibio. I'd recommend all of his albums.
This may or may not be the same answer. What is the best concert you've ever been to?
Oh, that is a great question. Wow. One that really impressed upon me was my first ever concert, which was AC/DC, when I was 12. I think if I ever lose hearing, it's going to be because of that concert. But maybe favorite concert, I used to be a metalhead, believe it or not, and I saw Tool, and I feel their live show is just very impressive. Lots of visuals, and their drummer was very special to me growing up. So that show had a big impact on me as well.
Those were 2 answers I was not expecting. All right. It's November, which means Thanksgiving is just around the corner. What is your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Oh, it's hard to choose. Goodness. I might have to go for the pies. I love the pumpkin pie, the pecan pie. But if we're talking turkey, I like the dark meat. I'm a dark meat guy.
White meat's way too dry.
And the skin. I love the skin too.
And to stick with that theme, but end on a more serious note, what is something you are thankful for this year?
I am thankful for my girls. I have 2 little girls. One just turned 4 this summer, and one is about to turn 2. And they're just my whole world right now. And I love them both very dearly.
Well, I love that answer. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sam, for not only playing along here in the lightning round, but sharing your music with us and info on the Bedside Music Program. If you want to learn more about your program, go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
Okay, Dan, we're talking music. So who would you say is your favorite musician?
So yeah, it's definitely not going to be Bibio or whatever Sam mentioned, because I've never heard of Bibio. But they always say that you stick with the music you grew up with, and I'm a 90s kid, and so any 90s rock I'm gonna be huge into. So you've got Counting Crows, Bare Naked Ladies, Pearl Jam, stuff like that. But I also do kick I will listen to Billy Joel all day, every day.
Nice.
And I got to see Billy Joel twice in concert, and he's amazing. And it's a 3-hour concert, and his band is incredible too. So I will go with I'll go Counting Crows and Billy Joel. What about you?
I'll stick to the rock theme because that seems like that's the memo today. I love Youngblood. I don't know if you guys know him. He is probably the love of my life. I think he is such a good musician, and he seems to be a great human being. So it's kind of a double win there. So yeah.
I have no idea who that is. Sam, do you know who that is?
I've heard of it for sure, but I'm going to check him out because I'm always looking for new music.
He's really good. He's from, I think, North England.
Sam, do you ever get requests or recommendations from patients that you've never heard of, and then do you go check them out?
All the time. Yeah, that's half the fun of this work is, having patients share their love of music and give me requests. And we often go home and learn songs for patients exclusively, which is a very special thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sam and Desmond, for joining us this week. And thank you, as always, to all of our listeners and viewers for everything you do for patients, families, and each other. We'll see you next time.